Now, we have our own version of the Earthrise for our own generation. From this point on, Integrity is now moving away from the moon and back toward home. Later that evening, they witness yet another sight that no human eye had seen before, a total eclipse of the sun from the far side of the moon. So typically when we see an eclipse, the sun and moon appear almost exactly the same size. But from out here, the moon appears much bigger than the sun. This allowed the total eclipse to last nearly 54 minutes and allowed the crew to capture photographs of the moon with the stars and planets in the background. So for any of your moon landing conspiracy friends who ask why you can't see stars from the moon, it's because the sun was out every other time we went there. When the sun goes away, the stars come out, just like on Earth. The day ended with a congratulatory phone call to the crew from President Trump and NASA leadership, while preparations were made to bring them home on the final leg of the journey. Another 4 days before they reach the Earth's atmosphere and begin the most dangerous phase of the mission. Re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere is a complicated maneuver. The capsule has to hit at just the right angle to cut through. If it comes in too shallow, then it'll actually bounce off and go flying back up into space. If the angle is too steep, then the capsule builds up too much resistance too fast and overheats. So NASA takes a lot of care with guiding Integrity in for its final descent. This is done using maneuvering thrusters on the service module. Now, once everything is lined up for re-entry, a lot of stuff begins to happen in a relatively short time. About 20 minutes before reaching the atmosphere, pyrotechnic charges fire and separate the Integrity capsule from the service module. The crew doesn't need it anymore, and the service module will safely burn up as it re-enters. Once separated, the Integrity capsule fires up its own maneuvering thrusters to perform a flip and gets its heat shield pointing down into the direction of travel. As the capsule falls down through the upper atmosphere, the Earth's gravity begins to pull harder, and it accelerates to a top speed of about 32 times the speed of sound. At this velocity, the capsule begins slamming into the first air molecules, which are still very thin at this altitude, but there's enough atmosphere to begin the heating process. As we see the first sign of flames begin to light up outside the capsule window, communications with the crew go dead. The energy from the spacecraft compresses the molecules in the atmosphere so violently that they explode into a state of matter called plasma. Not only is this plasma super hot, between 4,000 and 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's also so energized that it begins to conduct electricity. The electric charge is what disrupts communications between the crew and the ground team. It's like flying inside a lightning storm. This continues for 6 whole minutes until wind resistance has slowed the capsule down enough that it's no longer creating a plasma field. That force of deceleration has an effect of about 4G on the astronauts inside, the equivalent of about 4 times Earth's gravity. And this is the point where NASA regains communication with Integrity, and the world is relieved to hear that all is well with the crew on board. From here, it's a few more minutes of free-falling as the first cameras begin to track Integrity on its descent. At an altitude of around 5,000 feet, the main parachutes finally deploy, and the capsule slows down to a gentle 19 miles per hour for the final coast phase. It's 5:07 p.m. local time off the coast of San Diego, California, when Integrity makes their official splashdown into the Pacific Ocean, completing a 10-day journey that covered a total of 695,081 miles from the Earth to the Moon and back again. Once they are floating in the water, the capsule deploys 5 red helium balloons from the nose. Those are just to make sure it doesn't tip over. Although conditions on landing are pretty calm, at least as far as the Pacific Ocean goes, with waves peaking at about 4 feet high. There's only one minor issue post-splashdown, and that's with the communications between the astronauts and their recovery crew. Commander Reed Wiseman reports that he can hear the rescuers, but they can't hear him. So that results in a little bit of a delay, with recovery boats just circling around the capsule and waiting for instructions. But eventually, the first boat moves in and they open the hatch on the capsule from the outside, giving our crew their first breath of fresh, non-recycled air since last Wednesday afternoon. 4 Navy officers from the recovery boat hop into the capsule and begin to assess each astronaut, help them with getting out of their harness and space helmet and getting set for the main recovery operation. They attach a big inflatable raft to the capsule underneath the open hatch that's nicknamed the front porch, and one by one, the crew leave their capsule and drop onto the porch where they wait for a line to come down from a recovery helicopter. There are 2 choppers running 1 astronaut at a time, picking them up from the porch and dropping them onto the deck of a Navy ship waiting nearby. From there, they go straight down to the ship's medical bay for a full examination. All signs throughout the landing and recovery operation pointed to all 4 astronauts being in good health, but they will continue to be monitored out of an abundance of caution. And that concludes the most important human spaceflight mission of the 21st century, the first crewed moon mission in my lifetime, but certainly not the last. A proper beginning for a new space race and the era of human beings expanding our civilization to the moon and beyond.